Hmm. Good.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Cheyenne. Glad you're here. Hello, Nick.
Hi.
How are things there?
Yeah, better. It's finally started raining this week, so
Well,
it
we
was
have,
much. It wasn't much needed for the garden.
we have the same thing. Of all things, we're about to get hit by a hurricane here, which
But that's a bit too
doesn't
much.
happen. It doesn't happen. It's not really, it's already dying off. And they claim major rain and it's just barely sprinkling. Yeah.
Right.
That's always happens. That's why San Diego's so dry. If it's coming from the north, it peters out in LA. If it's coming from the south, it peters out in Baja. And we're in between. But it looks nasty on the radar. And we need rain, I'll tell you. We have not had rain for months. I mean, literally months. We've not had any rain, I know, since April, because I've got a weather station that I put in. No rain since then.
Right. Yeah.
That
But it all fell in the eastern US.
did you get my email?
No, what's that? I didn't see it.
Just the one that said I would be ready to demonstrate and
Oh,
discuss.
excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Good. It looks like we're in your lab.
Well, this is my wife's craft studio.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a sad story. I lost my main local area network radio up here. I had a big lightning strike, took it out. I got one on order, but it's going to be a while. So in the meantime, I have to make do with different places.
Does she try to sell things on Etsy or just do things?
We used to. We sold for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years and then folded up, quit. Said, that's just too much work. We have more things we can do.
It sounds like a heck of a lot of work.
It is.
Grady's father-in-law does that, and he just moved from Pennsylvania to California, and there was so much stress over they could only be down 3 days or 4 days or something, or Etsy and throw them out. I don't know what happened. Very stressful.
He kind of gave up after they changed a lot of the rules and made it real restrictive and things that just didn't make sense, for us to do. So
Yeah, I can't imagine shipping from where you are is easy either, is it?
it's not too bad. Most things all went by regular USPS mail, boxes and stuff, or if it was large items like I was making metalwork stuff, some of that had to be shipped in UPS containers and stuff. So.
Okay, good. Well, we've got, looks like we got a full house today. This is good. Well, those of you who didn't hear at the beginning here, Tom's ready to show us the network. Is it designed or you've tested it, or where does it stand?
Yes and yes. I'll go over some of the project ideas right now.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and
ready
start right now? Let's go ahead and, unless somebody's got a hot item they want to cover right now, go ahead. That's just, for those you don't know, this is because we were tired of passing slips of paper around in the dark at Mount Wilson, and Tom said, this is crazy. So go for it.
Okay, give me just a second. I need.
Oh, I need to give you a
those.
Yeah. What you
I need to share my screen. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you all see what I've got going on here? Can you see this little document?
Yes.
All right, this is kind of the overview of my project thoughts, and realize all this stuff is completely editable, modifiable. Anything we say we don't want to do or want to add or whatever we can. But the idea was, yeah, we had trouble with passing around thumb drives with images on it and passing around coordinates to operators, all that kind of stuff. So this is my kind of attempt to do what I did back at Kitt Peak when I went there with students back in 2013. Basically, it's just setting up a complete gigabit network local area with Wi-Fi capability established and a network attached storage device. I got a 2 terabyte drive. Let me just show you the pile of equipment first. Let's see. Let's see what we got.
Okay.
How many computers going on? I'm gonna stop sharing just a second and I have to show you this. And I couldn't bring it over, but let's see if I can get it in there. There's a pile of equipment that I've already bought
Okay.
for the whole process. So it includes, high-speed gigabit router and multiple switches, gigabit switches, lots of Ethernet cable connectors, that kind of stuff to make it all work. And I got a 2 terabyte drive for the NAS. I figured that was plenty big for about anything we're going to do, even on some of the bigger observatories when we fully automate it. And that's just like temporary storage is the idea there. Okay, let me go back to sharing and show you what I got still going on. So let's see if you can see it now. You can. Anyway, here's the list of equipment that I've already got. The X means I've already got it in place and already tested it. Some of the other things, for example, some of the Raspberry Pi stations, we may rethink that a little bit, but the idea is to be able to have our stations set up like we do, like at Mount Wilson. Okay, we had the camera operator, which kind of drove the show, right? He had the target list, he did all that type of stuff. He coordinated with the operator of the telescope at that time for position, for coordinate moves of the mount. We also coordinated with the focus station to make sure we were all in focus and ready to go. And I wanted to have these stations all on the network together so they can all see, through like BNC, be able to see the camera desktop if you wanted to see, what's going on with the images, that kind of stuff. I wanted to have that available. I also wanted to have that gigabit network available down below or wherever we had to do the data processing like we did last time. I want that all available and connected to the NAS, the network attached storage device, the 2 terabytes. That way, there's no, thumb drive passing. The images get there right now on the drive. They can be immediately processed or processed later or anything like that you wanted to do. So that's the biggest part of that. It's to make all that work. There's a little section down below. This is specific to Mount Wilson, or the same kind of setup we used at Mount Wilson. With the different camera. Okay, first off, we're going to have a centralized server which is going to manage this whole thing. It's really easy to do. We have a camera operator, focus operator, remote telescope operator. That was the guy that sat behind the booth back there and actually got the sticky notes with the coordinates on it and had to move it. Okay, so he'll be on the network. He'll be able to see the coordinates that we want for the next target. There'll be communication back and forth, and I'll demonstrate that in 10 minutes. The local telescope centering guy. Remember, we had the guy stand up there and he had to position the object where, as we wanted it, being called out from the camera operator, going no, up, down, left, right. I want him on that too, so he can actually see and not have to even communicate if need be, other than say, okay, I'm centered, go, kind of thing, Then, the remote data was what I was talking about, remote data processing. Okay, so if you did down below for us on that. That large video monitor, I think that was, who brought that? Was that Reed? Did Reed bring that big monitor? Remember? Oh, okay. We had a big monitor that sat between the focus operator and the camera operator, that kind of the peanut gallery would be able to watch and see what's going on. The students can see exactly what's going on in the whole process. And I think that was great. We'll try to use that again.
Do we have limitations on use of Wi-Fi?
No, I've already talked to Tom about this.
Okay.
I told him what my plan is. I sent him a little quick discussion of my setup that I would do. He asked how long would it take to set it up and test it all. And I said, well, once we get there, provided we've got power, I could probably have the whole system up and running in less than an hour. So,
Hmm.
and he was real happy with that. He said, the less cables we drag around, the better off we are for tripping hazards, and I agree. And that's why I'm doing Wi-Fi in there. And he has no problem with us having one Wi-Fi channel.
Okay.
So that'll work out good. Let's see what we got next. The software stuff, just kind of a list of the software. And I also plan to have all of the software that we're going to need on any station loaded on that NAS drive so that they can be installed should something go wrong or computer die or whatever. Quick reinstall the software right back up and remove it again. Don't have to, mess around with that. It'll all be on that network device. The NAS. Okay, well, I might as well show you what I'm doing here then.
Are we certain we want to use ZeroCam versus Nina?
I don't know.
I mean, Nina will lend itself to the automation process, which
Yeah, and the way I've thought about this, Pat, was I wanted to make sure that we could fully integrate with an automatic telescope too, so that we didn't have to do any of this stuff. But, we just send a list to their interface. It does what we need it to do. We move to the next target, it'll focus cameras, or do whatever it needs to do. So I want to have this integrated with that. And I think Nina's a great platform to do the integration into. That's down the road, I think. We'll work on that.
Okay.
But yeah, I did. My big vision is to have this available for any of the large observatories we go to for speckle projects, even the small ones. I'm going to be working with Russ, setting his system up. We'll use that as my target platform for testing all this out for full automation, that kind of stuff.
well, if you could do telescope control, yeah, that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, just about everybody does. It's just the big historic ones that they don't want to have, run the chance of something going wrong. And they don't want to automate, and I don't blame them. But we're going to take that into account. We're going to set this system up so that we can work in that environment too, just as well.
Okay.
So here's what I've been kind of working on. Kind of see the program here behind running. Okay. First off, I love doing this kind of stuff. It's really fun. I enjoy doing it. This is all written in Python 3, so and that's all two-kindred stuff. So it'll work great. This is the main screen that comes up. You can see I've got the local time, and by the way, the local time is set by a configuration for the observatory location. And I'll show you that in just a minute. It's all set up. But I put the local serial time there so you can kind of see what we expect to see for the next targets for RA, that kind of stuff. I loaded up a temporary, this is all database driven too. I loaded up a temporary, just a fun list of some of the WDS candidates that were out there, just a few of them. And like, for example, here's one that's a south, okay? So let's bring it up. Then it calculates all of its coordinates. This is the precision coordinates that come out of the WDS precision section. I do conversions to turn it into sesquidecimal, decimal, and RA in degrees as well, and declination stuff's over here. The idea, at least I think, and we may not want to incorporate this, but I wanted to make sure I had the ability. I want to have a target window, a time frame, 2 hours. So we center on 1 hour, and we can have targets an hour before or an hour after. So you don't have this giant list to try to go through. It only presents the ones that are visible within that time window, and that's modifiable. Any kind of time window you want to put there. It depends on how many targets we have. For example, when we get peak, gosh, we ran like 700 targets in a night. So you didn't want to have to read through that entire process to find your specific next target. So I think that was kind of the idea there. We can talk about that. We don't need to keep that for right now. We can have it. I've got flags in the database saying that target is complete when you're happy. And there's a reschedule flag, so it'll come back up in the schedule next time without any issue. This freeze target list, this is so that if we don't want to incorporate a full window, we could just freeze whatever section of the target list we want, and that stays there. Those then appear only those appear then on this list. And that's the same with the time window. Only these will appear on the list within the time window. So that's kind of what that's about. Let's see. Here's the way the process works. You pick your target, and there's communications that go back and forth. In fact, I built a little intercom system here so that we can communicate back and forth with different stations. It's all socket driven, so it's across the network. Here's the different current stations that we have, and these are you can add to it right here. You can add new stations as you want in the configuration to show you. But for example, you know, if you want to tell a camera operator, you know, are you ready to do something? Let's see, like that. You just send that message across, and it sends the message. Not only does it send the message, but it logs the message it's sent. So underneath this section here for logs, I'll bring up the window, and so it must be hidden. So this is what I just sent to the camera operator right here. Ready, you know, it says who it went to, how it went. It's an intercom, basically, an communication. This log also keeps track of all the observations we make in a chronological order. So when you send it to the operator, it gets logged. And you'll know that one is actually done. This log can be perpetual. It can go as big as we want. I want to also include an archive function, which I'll do down here a little bit later. It says save this off in an archive so it can't be, deleted, and then clear this log and start a new one. So we could use it for different sessions or whatever we decide we want to do. That'll all be done that way. The refresh, what it does basically, it does just that. It refreshes this list of data. So if I send this target again, let's go again. And I refresh the list, now you see it, that went to the operator right here. So it logs its stuff. All the date time stamps everything, so you know when it happened and all that type of stuff. So the log exactly does that. So now it's empty. We lost it. That's why I want to put the archive feature on there. So this is that, and here's the configuration program window that it's divided into two sections currently, and we have another section for some of the hardware specifics, like running the help file from up here. It's a PDF file, so depending upon what platform we're on, you may have a different PDF viewer. That's going to be an item that you can go browse to from this configuration and we'll store it for you. So that'll be easy to take care of. The upper section here are the locations. These are the observatories. And currently, I only have, I don't know, about a gazillion of them in there. For example, let me pull up Mount Wilson just to see what we're doing here. There's Mount Wilson. When you click that, it fills in all the data. The latitude, longitude, site elevation, time offset from UTC. All that stuff is now there. And it's also behind the scenes. This is now what controls your sidereal time, your real location, the real current local time. All that stuff is done through this. And it's all automatic once that's set. And I do have quite a few on here. Of course, I have my observatory there, and all this data is up to date, so you can see what's going on. The lower section is that intercommunication window I just showed you, where you send messages back and forth to the stations. This is the only stations I currently have available, because that's the ones we currently use. We can add new ones, just type them in here and add it to the database. These are all local IP addresses. So for example, let's go to camera. Camera IP address local on the land would be this address across that port. Just a note. Notes that says what it is. And we can put any notes in there we want that are specific, important information. And you can update this data. You can change any of these you want. You can update the location. You can update the stations. Add a new location, add a new station. Real easy to do that kind of stuff. But that'll be the main configuration. Everything is driven off that. Showed you intercom. A real quick little coordinate calculator. So you put in those precise coordinates. Like this one here is a sample. Hit convert and it brings up all the different formats of those coordinates that you might possibly want. In addition to that, I've got a little piece of software I've got. Here I'll include later. This is another way to do coordinates as well. So this one allows you to, you only have to fill in one thing. Is this an RA decimal? Is this an RA decimal? Is this a declination of some decimal or whatever? And you pick it and you choose what you want to put in there, and then it automatically converts over here. All this stuff can go to the clipboard, copy the clipboard, so you can put it anywhere you want. In fact, let me show you this one. I'm going to take this data here. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard real quick. I'm going to open up just a transfer note now. Paste it in. There's all the data. All that data right there is what came off that clipboard. You can pick any of those things you want. For example, here's RA decimal. You know, I mean, we often have a need to look up what a coordinate is, what an object is, or something like that. So you could put that right in here. So I'll pick RA decimal here. I'll paste it in, and I'll go ahead and convert it, and it converts automatically to something decimal over here. I have the ability to change the code so that these separators, they could be one of either colon, dash, empty space, a forward slash, or S means the string value, for example, this is. If I change this to colon, for example, watch the results over here. They changed to a colon format. Some software programs require different kind of configurations to put coordinates in. So I thought that might be a handy little thing to have around too. What's that guy?
What is there a special format to use for the target list?
Yeah, I'm going to take the one that Nick and Leon are developing, you know, for doing at the 1 meter and the 24.
Perfect.
I can incorporate that entire structure in the database.
Yeah.
We'll show you that real quick with the database.
Good.
The database is fairly simple. I have the entire WDS short list put in there. Short that includes broken down array and decimal, so you can see what they are. The city location, that's the locations of the observatories, the latitude, longitude. It could be anything. You know, it could be my backyard. It could be a title. And, you know, if you put that stuff in there, and it just stores it, so it's there available in our list. The locations. This is what drives all of the time information for your local time, for your sidereal time calculations and all that. It's all in here. And it tells you how that all works. Let's see, stations. Again, station name. This is the information that was on the configuration screen. This is all just the backend data stuff, and it doesn't really matter. Targets currently, this is what I have them defined as, but I'm modifying that to match the format that Nick needs to, you know, import into Nina for its information. So it's all database driven. It's all in the background.
When for each station, I assume somebody would bring a laptop for that station. Will it just be a matter of just connecting to the Wi-Fi network for them?
Yep, or the Gigadet LAN Ethernet if they want to do hard copy. See, like I've got hard connections set up between the server, the camera operator, and the focus guy. Everything else is designed on Wi-Fi. Tom says he thinks he's got already a long Ethernet connection down to where like Sophia was doing the data processing below. So I'll test that out. But we'll also test out Wi-Fi down there to see how far it goes. I can adjust the gain on the output of the antennas to the Wi-Fi. So, you know, we tweak it up, we tweak it down if we need to.
Okay.
Let's see, what else we got up here? Oh, there'll be a whole complete help documentation once we've finished the design of this. It'll have everything in there, I mean, from A to Z, how to install, how to start, all that kind of stuff. It'll be in that documentation. It'll be a PDF with all pictures, screenshots, everything you can imagine, so it makes it pretty easy to work through. The about's just simply going to have the version number, so we do version control on this stuff. I suspect we'll do lots of modifications down the road. That'll handle that, and it'll also give you contact information for me, so you know how to get a hold of me for any updates.
That's amazing work, Tom. I've got one other question. I'm not, when we do the calibration run or set of images, is that handled any differently than just another target or just the same
I'm gonna make it just another target. So the calibrations come over anyway, don't they, Nick, into the spreadsheets that you have set up? I think they do.
He's been doing calibration for, he's been doing it at 30, well, Nick can say, but it's been doing a 30-second observation for each target.
That's the calibration. Okay, yeah. That's it's just part of it. It's just another target basically. We could put a prefix on it or something that says cal dash the same target name or whatever, and it'll identify that and it'll log it that way too when you take those images.
Okay, at Mount Wilson, we ran a dozen or more images of a target, and then just put it into Excel to create a common position angle and separation to use, which is different than what Nina's doing.
Yeah, right. In fact, that a lot of that's the back end stuff. So
Yeah.
this is more focusing on the actual taking the data, doing the integrations, doing the having the availability, that kind of stuff. So I did not incorporate anything that would how do I say that? I didn't go beyond those boundaries. I wanted to stay within that, or else it would just
Yeah.
it would be so big. We pretty soon we'd be controlling the world. I don't want to be
Yeah.
doing that.
Well,
I give you the ability to load a target list off a CSV file. So for example, let's go find a CSV file here. This is all just data structure behind you. So this will open that target list up and it'll import it in. I'm going to have the ability to either append it or to replace it. So you can either add it to your target list currently or to totally replace the current target list that's on the database right now. So that's the way that'll work. I've got a target viewer list, which will be kind of like an Excel dump. It'll show you all the targets, all the data that we want to include in there. The filters, the past RA, past separation and position angle, anything like that you want to see. It'll be there as a view, so you can look at that information if you want, that you've already submitted in here. So that'll be available.
that was nice. The thing that Calais put together with the ephemeris plot out of the 6th orbital catalog was extremely helpful.
Yeah, I can include that if you want to see something like that.
Yeah.
The link can come right off that view, that list viewer. This one here, it can come off that view target list right there. And I'll have all the images, all the JPEG files that are already currently associated with the 6th in there. I'm in the process of loading up the entire 6th orbit catalog. I get the whole WDS loaded up. I'll load 6th orbit up, and I also want to get that spreadsheet that Russ has that just gives the information that we need. So that way I can load that information up in the table and make that available too.
Yeah, that's a super data set. Really useful.
I was just doing an email sending it to you. It'll be attached. You'll have it in 30 seconds.
Well, I'll get it when I can. I didn't know if you heard the saga, but I blew up my area network radio system in a lightning strike. So I need Vice Craft Studio in case you see all the fun stuff behind. So let's see. Document database. Let's see, I want to show print outline. I did that. Demo the program. I kind of did that. And show the database browser. I did that. Oh, show the hardware photo. I showed the stack. These are questions I have down here. I'm just going to be a ton more, but I wanted to know things about this. So I wanted to figure out, do we want to use that windowed approach to limit the selection available to the target list? That's an easy thing to do, and it might make it a little bit less confusing trying to find targets in a big list. Let's see, what target fields do we want to include in that viewer I just talked about? The dump, and I just heard you say we want to include the images of the current plots of the orbits. We can do that. That's pretty simple to do. Any other suggestions regarding the Boolean stuff? I want you guys to tell me Is this way too much over the top, or are we okay with kind of the design? And it's got about, I don't know, 3,500 lines of code right now behind it. Many functions. In fact, let me show you what they look like.
I think it's terrific. You really done a lot of work there.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It'll streamline things so much
Yeah.
once we're all familiar with it. I
Yeah.
have a question about the coordinates. Remember last time on the last evening, we had an issue between the current and the 2000. You know, we were having trouble getting precession down right, so it was looking at the right spot. Is there a capacity for that, or can you add that, or what's the story?
Yeah, it should be easy to add. This one here, where you can go, you know, the detailed list. I should be able to have a check button that says use current or use J2000, and it'll show you them. I can include that in a clipboard copy, so you see both of them, and you can make decisions that way.
That'd be good.
I just need to either precess all the data myself, or I need to find a precess list for current. So that's shouldn't be too hard to do, Rick. I'm gonna write that down in my notes.
And most of the catalogs give you 2000, and we shouldn't point the telescope there, though.
Yeah, I know.
Right. It would be nice to maintain consistent target lists between what we're doing with what Nick has got for Nina and what we're using here.
Yeah, it's my intent too. I don't want to have two different kind of formats and stuff. I want to use what we're currently using.
Yeah.
In fact, if what we're currently using changes over time, it's easy enough because it's all database driven to modify it. So that won't be a problem.
All catalog entries should be in J2000.
You mean currently, Dave?
Well, anything that you do, I think, in the GUI or the human interface should be done in J2000, because otherwise you get totally confused. And then
But that confused our operator at Mount Wilson.
Well,
we don't want to slew the J2000 coordinates. We want to slew the current coordinates.
well, then they should have a separate box to do that at the telescope.
Yeah, but that was the problem last time. They didn't have one. So we fumbled around trying to do it, and we ran out of time and got tired.
That's going to be a display window at the operator. He'll have it on his computer. He'll be able to connect to our net, and it'll have all that data in there, J2000 as well as current. You know, anything we need to provide him with. The idea is to get it over to him without having to carry paper and trip over records and kind of make the program a little more efficient. But you think we ought to keep everything in J2000? Dave?
Well, if you don't, then you're always so who does the translation? You know, that's always the problem. So the rule, the industry standard is kind of the telescope does the translation, and all coordinates are passed in J2000 right now. Now, there is an issue of whether you want to put in the current epoch, which is how you get the proper motion into the coordinates. But and proper motion can be a factor in some cases. I mean, obviously, if you're looking for Barnard star, you're going to be way off if you don't put that in. But generally, that's not a concern.
Okay, well, simple enough to make both available, and I'll put the epoch of the transformation in there so we know what current means.
Yeah, right. Right. I remember when Dan and I started this a long time ago, we had plenty of confusion. So, okay, it's great. It's a great looking program.
I want to work with you Dave, on that, make sure we get all that stuff where we want. So, I mean, everybody on that group needs to tell me if there's things that they think need to be included or added or modified or whatever.
The proof is in the pudding. You have to take it to Mount Wilson and see if it actually works, you know, as intended. right.
Now, I have set the entire network interface or, configuration up with all the switches and all the NAS and the router and everything like that. It's fully functional. There's nothing to worry about on that. And you can swap out the hard drive if you want for the NAS. Currently, I've got 2 terabytes, but we can put anything we want. The nice part is, just about everybody will have some kind of a device that can connect up into the network, and they'll probably have some kind of viewer so that they can see, like VNC or AnyDesk or those kind of things that would make it available to see that camera operator's screen if they want to do that.
So you're saying that the peanut gallery could access the network and
Yep, they can access it and they can read only. They can check it out. They can't mess with anything, but they'll be able to
Yeah.
view it. That's just based on a different login. That's all it is. Pretty simple.
very cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really nice. Really
I
nice.
threw a lot at you guys, so think about it and get back to me with any changes, modifications, or improvements you think we should make on this.
Tom, could you go through the actual data transfer part of it again? I think you touched on it, but
Yep.
that's through cable to one computer, your 2 terabyte.
Okay, the way the network is set up, I've got a server, which is basically this little Raspberry Pi sitting right here. And also the router. It's a Wi-Fi router, so it's got both 2.5 and 5 gig capabilities in it. The network that the drive connects to that router. It's an external USB connection to it, so we swap it out anytime we want. Make it easy. That system is direct connected through switches to the camera operator and to the focus guy, because they're right there typically together. Can even be the same station. It doesn't have to be separate stations in any case. Everybody else will be using Wi-Fi to get the information. The telescope operator will have a little panel to pop up what our next coordinate is, and I'll do both JD and Trent if I can. Otherwise, we're doing JD 2000. So, like Dave suggested.
Okay, so the
That's
data
the
stream
Wi-Fi.
goes through from the camera to the server, goes through cable, and everybody else can look at it in Wi-Fi.
That's right.
So there's no latency issues with the Wi-Fi or anything like that.
There shouldn't be anyway. I mean, I tested this
Yeah.
thing out here in my nest.
It's fast enough, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not controlling nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
Yes, it's plenty fast. The ping tests on it showed it was running about maybe 3-4 milliseconds max for the replies, and it's just been it works fine.
So that those who are doing data reduction will extract the data from NAS and process locally.
Anywhere they want, any place that they've got connectivity, either to the Wi-Fi or if that Ethernet connection cable is available down below, through that. And I'll put a switch down there too, so that more people can plug in their computers and process at the same time.
That
The
would be
idea
really
is-
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, get 3 or 4 people, 5 or 6 people plugged into this thing and let them, process like crazy.
Okay.
That's pretty much all I have to show right now. You have some schema that I use all the time, except for this one light blue up here for the sidereal. That's because it's sky time. Anything that's got blue, you can edit. You can go in and edit, and you can also add whatever. Like here, all these blue are editable. These drop downs are nothing but the lists that then populate all the data down below. Same with the station operator. All this information down below.
So Russ, what's the next have camera will travel site?
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted.
So the plan is to see if we can get a large telescope in Arizona for the Christmas break. And so I'm going to be going down to Tucson in a couple of weeks and checking with the folks. And so it'll probably the 2.1 meter at Kitt Peak or the 2.3 meter Bach telescope at Kitt Peak, or the 1.5 up on Mount Lemmon, or the 1.5 VAT telescope up on Mount Graham. So those are the four. Oh, and it could be one of the 1 meter telescopes up at Flagstaff. NPOI has 3 of them, and they've ordered another one, but I don't think it's arrived yet. And so the idea would be to do it after school's out, but before Christmas.
Oh,
And so, Tom, the question for you is, if I can get at least a semi-commitment from one of these 3, could we do an engineering checkout on all this prior to the run?
I don't see why not. I wouldn't have a problem with
I mean, that really saved our fanny at Kitt Peak.
Well,
To do that, and you and I went did the engineering checkout in advance,
Yeah,
and it's worked at Mount Wilson too. So yeah, the 2 other items, quick items. One is particularly maybe Nick could help out. I just looked at the target list for tonight in Chile on the 1 meter and the 24 inch, and the known binaries aren't on there. I wondered if you could put those on. I can send you the latest target list if that would help at a CSV file.
Is that the same list as earlier this week?
Yes, I think so, but I can send them again if you want to be sure.
No, that's okay. I can load it again.
Okay, just load it again, and maybe if you could do it for the next 3 nights. I'd like to see if we can get some repeatability statistics on known binaries, some idea of precision.
Yeah.
And we need at least 3 nights to do that. And
we've had some issues this week. So there were a couple of things that didn't quite go right. So I think the first night was reasonable. The second night Leon had set it to do a pointing model, so we missed the first half of the evening, and then when I woke up, I started it up because then it was ready with the pointing model, and I think the third night it was cloudy, so there wasn't anything we could do. And last night it was fine, so that it actually went from the start of the evening throughout the whole night, and only this morning it had a slight mishap with a filter not being the filter wheel didn't disconnect it or whatever. I don't know. So, but that was just before it had to stop anyway. So yeah, last night was the best night.
damn, didn't have our target list on.
Yes, I did. I have loaded. There's 4 target lists in total, and I loaded them all for every
great.
night. So.
Yay, fingers crossed.
yeah.
I have one more super fast item, and let me just share the screen. And if you can see, so that's Spyro, and it's coming along. The down here in RA, you can see the coil plate for the direct drive, and up here in deck, here's the coil plate, and you can see the magnet plates on backwards. If you put it on the correct way, it's not easy to get off. Anyway, I was just checking counterbalance, and this is Chris. So he lives here locally and is helping out with the observatory and the course for Eastern Arizona College. Anyway, we're making progress. Dan is currently doing a little remachining on there's a reed head mount that goes on the coil plate that reaches over on the reed head on the magnet, the actual encoder ring on the magnet assembly. So at any rate, we're getting there.
Nice. Looks nice. So when do you think first light? Are you not gonna predict? Yeah,
Yeah, I think first light probably, early October, and maybe Dave and Dan will come to kind of square it away. I'll try to get it working, but that doesn't mean it's working right.
okay, great.
I have to take off early. Thank you all. I'm really excited about these developments. I'll see you next time.
Okay,
Right, Clay.
bye, Clay.
Nick, I had just a follow-up question that for clarification on the target list. It was my understanding that once they're uploaded for a given, week of a run, all the individual stars stay on the list as long as they haven't been fully observed yet. The number of times and all that that are
Yeah.
requested. Is that right?
If everything goes right, then yes. In this case, I reloaded all the targets every night because every night we had issues.
Oh, okay.
So I just thought, well, I better get some extra data for all the targets.
Okay.
Also because we missed the evening, so I couldn't really reload the same list the next night. So yeah, I thought I'd just reload everything and get as much data as we can.
Thank you.
Okay,
But there's
if everything's working normally, you load it once and it'll pick up the stars the next night that it didn't get the previous night and keep trying
Right.
until it catches as many as it can, right?
Yeah, the problem is that quite a lot of the targets didn't plate solve well. So yeah, then it's gonna miss. So yeah. It's,
That kind of brings up another question I had. When it says failed in the folder, or, well, I guess
Yeah.
that's the only place it says failed on a folder. That
Yeah.
implies that the plate solve failed or that
Yes.
the speckle data failed.
Well, it implies that the plate solve failed and probably the speckle data as well.
Okay, and then
Uh,
sometimes there's a good plate solve in that failed folder. And that means it tried again at the end of the speckle data, or
um,
because sometimes
you-
there's a for the same star, there's a regular name on the folder and then also a name that has failed inserted. And there's more data there, more plate solve data, that is.
Yeah, but those are the images that failed to plate solve. But I do save them so you can check. Maybe there's something we could do. Maybe there's some settings we can change to the parameters to get it to plate solve more often. I don't
Okay,
know.
so they're duplicates of what was in the original folder.
It could be that it just tried again and it'll save it in the failed target list again.
Yeah, I've gotten some of them to solve on the failed list and then some
Really?
didn't. So
So
I'm not sure if they're unique new
which,
exposures or not.
Could you send me the parameters you use for plate solve 3 to maybe I've just yeah, maybe I haven't said it correctly.
Okay, I'll do
So,
that for,
yeah, I'm not sure. It seems to fail a lot this week, but I'm not sure. Sometimes there's only 3 stars, which makes it really hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes it looks like something that could solve, but it doesn't. So I'm not sure about that.
yeah, I've run into a field that had basically no stars fainter than about 15 or so, and it just didn't have anything to work with.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But maybe it's thin clouds that mask the fainter stars too.
Mhm.
Another night might work.
Yeah, it could be, but I'm not sure about the parameters that are set now. So maybe that's that could be an issue.
Should
Yeah, Rick,
Walker- Oh, go ahead.
are you using like the standard set of parameters, or what are you using, Rick?
I'm using the parameters that we kind of tweaked at the little workshop at Mount Wilson.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
A
So
little
could
more
you,
sensitive than normal, I think.
could you bring them up on your screen right now? We can just take a
Oh.
look and Nick can take a screenshot.
If I can,
Because we worked on that for half an hour or so and got it quite a
Yeah.
bit better.
yeah, right, it improved.
Yeah, this would be good.
Let me see if I can find this stuff.
Nick, should we, if I have people, I've got at least a couple of people that should have access to the shared Google Drive so that they can load targets and download data. Do I send you an email for that?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I haven't set it up, so I think either Dave could do that or Leon. I
Okay,
think Leon set everything up
Okay.
until now. So.
yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
haven't,
Leon has set everything up, so we'll have to ask him.
okay, I'll ask Leon. Because moving the files around for him by myself is very time consuming. I've got one other thing while Rick's pulling this up, and that's given we want to have more students involved, and this is right in the middle of class time, is there an alternate time we should be considering for our meeting? And we don't have to answer it now, but just throw it out there because most of the students we have can't make this 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock on Friday.
Can you suggest another time?
Well, I was thinking maybe if there was something later in late afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock or something of a day of the week. A lot are out of classes by then. But it depends on, I mean, it's important that this group get together, so I don't want to override that. It's just, I can think of, there's probably a dozen students we have that would really benefit from this and would be interested. But I don't want to suggest 2 meetings, so maybe we can take a poll on it. I can send out a poll and see if there's an alternate time. And we'll see if we come up with a good one. I'll do that. That's all right.
Yeah, the trouble with asking people what time works, I mean, you'll have to propose 1 or 2
Yeah.
other.
Oh, yeah.
times.
Yeah. No, I'm always got to have a straw man. But that's easy enough. I'll send a doodle that suggests some times. And we'll see if there's a good one. Good.
Let me see if I can,
Yeah, good.
can you see the plate solve image?
You see an image?
And
Yeah.
can you see the little window on the right, the plate solve window?
No.
Yes,
No?
Yeah,
yes,
Oh,
I see it.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, let me,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, that image should plate solve if you just push plate solve.
yeah,
the plate
it didn't,
Uh-huh.
but others with not too much better number of stars. You see it hasn't pulled in some of these really faint ones out here. So maybe the parameters aren't set there very well.
Yes, so open the parameter window. Yeah, that's what I recall we used. Yeah, sometimes it's just not going to plate solve. I see that it made some errors in the star extraction, huh? It didn't extract that. The bright star is a problem in that field.
Well, there is an X on the center of it. But
Nonetheless,
it didn't find a solution for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look too good to me. It should have found those stars in the upper left.
Yeah, it should have. I think maybe the moon was relatively close by and really bright, and the some other, you know, the background magnitude was like 12 at some other times on the night. So it's
Yeah.
really a really bright sky.
Ah.
Yeah, it's
That's
unfortunate
part of
that one of the problems with plate solving is we have terrible, background illumination
Yeah,
from the moon, but we get what we get. Is this from the 1 meter?
yeah, that's from the 1 meter.
Can you send me this image? I'd love to take a look at it in more detail to understand why it's not finding those obvious stars. It should.
Okay, sure. I'll send it to you by, well, I don't know if it'll send through email. I'll put it up on my Google Drive and send you the link if it doesn't work.
Yeah,
on
thanks.
email.
Just this one image, because this is kind of
Yeah.
a fascinating example of. Anyway, those parameters, Nick, are the ones that we came up with after a bit of work at Mount Wilson, and those parameters should work very well.
Right, so
You know,
I've just,
it's interesting, Dave, that you've got four identified targets within that main star. There's 4 different crosses in there, and maybe that's fooling your software,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, there's a lot that I don't understand about the star extraction in this image. It's not working very well. I mean, there's obvious stars that it should be extracting that it's not, and so forth. So I don't know, but that doesn't look very good to me.
Does
Yeah,
the,
these other things, I don't know if they're actual
Part of-
stars. They're part of the diffraction spikes.
Yeah, why don't you zoom in on that?
Yeah, let me.
yeah. So how,
Well, they're
Well,
hot pixels.
there's
I don't know.
what looks like
Yeah.
a hot pixel that it's picked up as a star, so that's an issue. This
I
one
mean-
is another hot pixel and another hot pixel there. It's having trouble with,
It's a very, very poor star extraction, which
well,
I need to
it's a
take a look at.
relatively poor image too.
No, that image is perfectly acceptable. If you go back to the wide field view of it. It's a little out of focus, unfortunately, but that shouldn't make any. Now zoom in on, yeah, do an auto stretch there. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Man, I don't know.
Yeah, there's 4 up here, maybe a 5th one that should have been
Oh,
picked up.
there's probably 20 stars in that field that should have found, and I don't know why. So send me a link to it and I'll have to take a look at that right away, because that's not good at all. Not working.
I've seen others from the August run that were, solved on as few as 11 stars. So that it seems like it's working well when the images are fairly crisp and the background isn't too bright. So maybe it's just a problem with the bright moon sometimes, or a little haze or something that brightens the sky even more.
Oh yeah, I mean, the sky background makes a big difference to the SNR, but nonetheless,
Is the
I mean-
SNR, maybe if I cut that down to 3, could try that and see if it works.
well, you can try it, but that's probably going too far.
that was on Mount Wilson.
No,
Those
this
parameters
is with the 1 meter. No,
are-
it's
oh, 1
still,
meter. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Which of those parameters need to be played with depending on aperture? Is it, or
None
pixel
of
scale?
them. They should all be perfectly fine
For any,
um,
for any situation? Okay,
for any case. Yeah.
okay.
and it's version 379, which is using the Gaia coordinates for the faint stars. So, I mean, they're all checked, but it'll include the Gaia stars, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just not working for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, not completely.
Not at all. I mean, there's lots of stars in that field that it should be extracting. The reason it can't plate solve, it's not, the extraction isn't performing correctly.
Should it be very deep for the catalog depth, or does it?
It shouldn't matter.
Shouldn't it?
No. I mean, you can try very deep, but it didn't extract the stars correctly. So,
Yeah.
that's the main problem.
Trying
No,
All right, well, nothing I can do here. Except take a look at the image when I get a, so send me the link, Rick, thanks.
okay, I'll do that.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, how do I get out of here? Stop share.
Good.
Yeah, well, if it's behaving like that, that explains why we don't get good plate solves all the time. It's not behaving well. And it may be the background brightness. You know, almost all of my work was done years ago with images that, you know, were normal astrophotography images, not right next to the full moon generally. So it may be the background extraction is not great, or needs to be tweaked or something.
Yeah. So anyway, I've put the parameters that Rick showed into the 1 meter plate solver. So we'll have a look, see how it does.
Okay.
But if you come up with anything else that's plate solves better, then yeah, let me know.
So the issue is this, these algorithms require extensive testing because it's possible to make modifications to the program that make it work better for the image that you're looking at, but actually, you know, make the overall performance poorer. So,
Yeah.
so and I've learned this lesson enough times in my life, and many other aspects too of engineering, that the only way to do this correctly is to have a collection of images that both plate solved and didn't plate solve. In other words, a whole collection of images, like I put together a collection of 130 images from probably 30 different telescopes, and it's the only way that I could make progress. That was, you know, 10 years ago. I still have all of those images, but now we have a new set of telescopes and problems and sky background and gradients in the, you know, gradients. We have now a combination of very bright star, you know, anyway, you get the idea without belaboring the point. What's the best way to put together a collection of representative images that we should use for testing plate solve algorithms?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can if the drive has been updated, or I mean there's a whole bunch of plate solve images, and every directory with failed behind it, it basically failed that plate solve. And if it doesn't have the failed written into it, then it did plate solve the image correctly. So
Right.
there's a whole bunch of images around. So you can just go into the drive and take out what you want.
Yeah. Well, that's the way to do it.
And we've
Yeah.
got some from Mount Wilson for another kind of corner of the envelope.
I can get you some from Barrow as well.
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm really going to work on it, looks like I have to work on plate solve again, unless there was something obviously weird about that, but it didn't look like a weird image at all. It looked perfectly acceptable to me.
Is there anything about a CMOS versus CCD that might influence it? Nothing.
I don't think so, because yeah.
Okay.
For my target list, it was only 1 or 2 out of about, maybe 30, almost 40 stars altogether that it wouldn't plate solve. And they were really sparse fields to begin with, like this one, but like you say, it looks like there are stars that didn't pull up.
Well, yeah, before we go into full panic mode, maybe I should take a look at this particular image first, because I don't like what I see, but maybe there's an explanation. So I'll take a look at this first, and then maybe next week I'll tell you what I found, and we can talk about how to put a collection of images together that makes sense. because I hadn't thought about Barrow. There's there's Mount Wilson, there's 2 telescopes in Chile, and I've got a whole collection of other plate solve images. And I'm sure Nick wants to keep it general purpose enough to work also with other NINA, users.
Yeah.
Okay, requires some, I know I've done this mistake before, so I know I better stop and think about this before I go monkeying around with something.
Yeah, it would be great if you could sort of automate the process of plate solving a bunch of images and then just say run, and then it all just
I
check
do that.
all. Yeah,
That facility
uh,
actually exists in
Right.
in from the early days. There's a way to plate solve every image in a folder, and I've used that hundreds of times to
Mhm.
try to figure out what was working and what wasn't working.
right.
No,
Okay. Anyway, we'll take one step at a time. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate that. If you find other images that failed that or obviously shouldn't fail, then that would be good to put in a directory somewhere that we could access. And
Yeah,
okay,
so the parameters on the 1 meter were different to what Rick just showed. So I changed them, and hopefully, yeah, tonight it'll do a better job. So
well, that's the problem with diddling around with the parameters too, is that these were perfect, or these are the best we could find for Mount Wilson. We had what, Rick, a collection of 9 or 10 images that wouldn't plate solve, and then most of them plate solved after we made these adjustments. So we just better be careful. I would record what the parameters were that you're using, and if it looks like you made it worse, then that's something else to talk about.
yeah,
Plate solving's a bitch. You have telescopes that range in focal length from to Mount Wilson. We have a f16. Okay, enough of that.
Okay.
And literally Celestron had I wrote the algorithms for their, what do they call it, star sense or something, and their focal length was 2 inches. And that was a new problem entirely. So from 2 inch, the thing needs to work from 2 inches to whatever Mount Wilson is, 24 meters. Huh? Quite a large range. Okay.
Okay, good. Okay. Other topics. The floor is open. Anything else? This is a lot of meat today. A lot of serious discussion.
Yeah, I have a quick question. My colleague and I were mentioning auto centering on the targets for the speckle images after processing. We all each did our own measurements, but there is a little bit of variability in play when you select, depending on aperture size and such, or centroid size. I know I mentioned it to you, Dave, pretty early on after Mount Wilson, and my colleague wanted me to bring it up, so I thought I might.
Yeah, you'll have to actually make a little study for us to see, if you're getting variability, is it in the, is it in the important range, or is it within the what you'd expect for noise? So if you could change the aperture size and do the measurement and do that for several different aperture sizes, we can at least, have some initial look at how much effect it has.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could bring that next week. Just be able
Sure.
to, that would be super. That's what
Yeah.
I was very interested in that question. We don't have much guidance on that, really. Just sort of artistic guidance, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, having multiple of us students make our own measurements and
Yeah.
then compare them does seem like a way to kind of get around that, especially after we process our own images and kind of tweak them. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it is even worth looking at.
I'm very
No,
interested to see what variability there is by
Yeah.
each analyst doing their own. That concerns me a lot.
Yeah, and I'll actually on our side, we're starting to do some measurements into next week. So I'll advise our students to do the same and try different size apertures of the centroid. Yeah, I'm fascinated by that as well, Joseph, because I think from an earlier session, I don't know if you were on it when David and Rick were helping us, helping me figure out the best practice of doing those final measurements on Speckle Toolbox. What I've learned with more practice since is that there does seem to be an optimum aperture where the cross moves around the least when you try to move the centroid around. And it would be nice to know for sure, is that really the best, measurement? Because I think that was the advice at the time. So I think it would be really good to do a set of these deliberately at different apertures on the same identical images and see what those differences are. And then I think we can establish as a team the best practice, right? And give some more specific guidance notes to everyone. So then we really use Dave's Speckle Toolbox to the optimum. That would be fantastic. So yeah, that would be great.
That would be really good.
You should agree upon a standard set of images to look
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
You can send just the reductions. There's a lot of other stuff going on here too. Sometimes the settings, unfortunately, there's a lot of settings in this work. When you go to make the reductions, there's settings and so forth, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can happen here. And I've never really known what to do about that. I have never found a single set of settings that is best for everything. So,
Right.
but anyway, if you want to do that study, let me recommend that you make it a small study. Don't make it a big study. Only maybe I would start with probably three bispectrum results and pass it around to people that you know or your students or whatever, and see what they get, and make an Excel table of what they got, and without giving them any more information from what they have right now. And let's see how bad it is, because if it's really bad, then we have a lot of work to do. But if it's really not so bad, then we not so urgent then.
Exactly. So Joseph, do you want to, I'm sorry, Pat, you go ahead.
You made a point that I wanted to bring up anyway. You said 3 bispectrum results. The bispectrum results can vary somewhat?
Well, I would send them BSP1 files. You need a target and a reference.
But there's no variability. Once you process to BSP1, they're going to come out the same every time.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely no guarantees of
Okay.
anything in this world, right? Okay. I mean, if you look at the images that we're starting with, right?
Yeah.
Think of the images that you're starting with. Most of the cases, you can't find a double star within them, right? So, we have to be careful in our thinking about this. You're trying to remove the entire effect of the atmosphere, which has speckled the thing, over a 2 or 3 arcsecond or 4 arcsecond region. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into despeckling that. So, let's be careful. So I suggest you start the study by sending BSP1, in other words, bispectrum files, for targets and references, and just have them do the reduction from that point on without any further instructions.
Yeah.
And compile the results and see what you get. It might be a surprise. I don't know. I mean, that's why you do the experiment. You know, humans are involved in this, and that worries me.
Yeah.
Always. Whenever humans are involved in anything, then you know you have a new variable, biochemistry.
Right.
Okay.
A way I did try to kind of take out the human element was having my team all use the same BSP files and FITS cubes. We had them do their own at first just so they know the process, but for our measurements, we all use the same BSP files and FITS cubes. However, there was variability in the everybody did their own like high pass and low pass filters and that tweaking balance.
Yeah,
but
that's
actually
gonna
our
change.
measurements came out very close. So when we were doing the mean and the deviations, they actually seemed pretty solid. So
Well,
but
let's
I'll look into BSP only and see what happens.
Yeah, pick an easy target, an intermediate, and a difficult target, and send those out to everybody, and just let them run it.
Yeah.
Compile the results and put it in a spreadsheet. And let's see how bad off we are.
I love
It's good.
the psychology experiment aspect of it, of not telling them much more than that. The only problem I see is these are students, they're very busy, and it's been a little tricky getting people to get things turned in on time. So next week might be a little wishful thinking, but I'll see what happens.
Well, Joe, send 3 pairs to me, and I'll personally do the check. I'll personally just do them, right? Total isolation. I don't know anything about them other than there's a BSP for the target and reference. And I'll do those for you, and I'll record the aperture sizes, all the settings that I've done on them, and the variability. And really, if we just focus on the centroid size initially, without even changing the filters, maybe that gives us a better experiment just to see what the centroid size itself does. And then maybe later we add other dimensions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, you've got with that data set I've got from the automation run in Chile, you could identify, as Dave's saying, a good or an easy one, a hard one, a middle.
Exactly.
One, and then that's could be our data set, because he's only got, I think, Joseph, you only got one data set, or do you have 2?
I have 2. And that's the other thing I wanted to bring up, is I only have access to 2 sets.
Well, I'll find the 3 then, a good, intermediate, and a hard one, and I'll send us all it, and then Joe, you can have yourself, your team, work those as well, just independently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
I'll just
mean,
create a little spreadsheet with to record
everybody that has Speckle Toolbox should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
I
see
agree.
Okay.
That'd
We've
be
got
great.
good experts around the table. So,
Okay,
yeah.
and I put my email in the chat, Mark.
Okay, cool.
Good.
And that's
Yeah.
why it should be completely blind. Nobody should
Yes.
know. The only thing that, of course, you have to know, you have to tell the person what the aperture and the image scale was to be able to do the
Yes.
photon noise reduction. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
But that's all, just those parameters, and that's
And
it.
the filter, the filter
Yeah.
center frequency.
Exactly.
The calibration constants. The
And
angle and the plate scale.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
don't even go that far. You don't need to do that. Just make it on the image, in pixels, and
Okay.
then you don't need to calibrate
Okay.
the camera.
That could be a very interesting experiment.
Very good. I do appreciate the potential for Speckle, and I know that this would be a good step to kind of weed out the known variables. So right on.
Great.
Yes, great suggestion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Super. Well, any other hot topics here? That's a good one. No? Well, we've had a,
Well, I've just been testing a couple of the field images on the 1 meter, and it does solve a lot more images now. So yeah,
excellent,
hopefully it'll work better this evening.
excellent, great,
Okay, good.
okay. Okay.
All right, great seeing all of you.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Interesting meeting. Thanks, Tom. Your network is unbelievable.
It is
It's
unbelievable.
unbelievable. I would love to see it in practice. Maybe we can, do a Mount Wilson sometime this fall.
Yeah.
Would be fun.
Well, we're gonna set it up wherever Russ finds a big scope for us for December, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you come help us, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If I'm able
Nick?
to,
Nick, thanks so much for putting the known binaries on the next several nights.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And try to get as much data as possible. So
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm itching to see what the 1 meter can do. How close it'll get, and can we see elongation? Because lots of these are fairly bright, so it's not the faint stars, but resolution wise, what happens when we get down to 0.1 arc seconds?
Yes, very
Yeah.
interesting. All right. I'll see everybody. We'll see each other next week.
Yep.
Good.
Hey, bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.